One thing I will say about the digital app, if you look at the interface here, this game does run well on mobile, and they are a small team, so their interface is directly ported. It's the same interface on mobile and PC, so the buttons are a little bit, it looks like a mobile app, right? They're big for a touchscreen. The gameplay in this is very good, though. Their seasons run month to month, so they just started a new season, so let's play a game here with the deck that I was playing at the Gen Con event. Does this game have save in in it? It does not have the rat people yet. How is this game structured? So the gameplay in this game is completely unique compared to Magic the Gathering. It's not like a lot of the different games that are like even Hearthstone where they're like they're like Magic adjacent. So the core details of the resources in this game are basically everybody gets to do 2 things per turn, and drawing a card for your turn counts as one of your 2 things. So you don't draw a card at the start of every turn like you do in Magic and a lot of other games. It makes effects that draw cards and effects that like take cards out of your opponent's hands a lot more powerful. It also lets you, because you know each player is only doing 2 things per turn thereabouts, you can kind of plan out your turn structures in advance, kind of know what they're going to be doing with their turn and back and forth. So it kind of gives you a lot of ways to predict what they're going to be doing, especially if you're familiar with the cards that they're playing. Usually the queue time to find a ladder match is pretty reasonable. This has been one of the games that I play at the gym on my smartphone. Usually I can play a game, 2 to 3 games in an hour on the treadmill. The games tap along very quickly. There's a lot of interesting, you can actually do other things in the client while you wait to queue. There's a lot of interesting things that go into the deck building in this game. So there's 3 different types of cards in this game. One of them are these 4 champion cards, which kind of dictate what types of cards you want to put into your deck. And then the other are these blessing cards, one of the ways that variance goes into the game. So each of these champion cards have 4 different goals that you're trying to play cards on them throughout the course of the game. And as you play cards on them, they turn through as you play them to know which corner you're currently working on. And when you meet all 4 of the requirements on the cards, they flip up a powerful card underneath them that gives you an extra effect. Hey, Wafer. What do you think of Elizabeth Warren's plan to unban Stoneforge Mystic and pay for it with a wealth tax? Thanks for the 5 months. I appreciate it. Welcome back. Yeah, we did just switch over to this. Although the ladder's taking a hot second. Look at that. There we go. There's a ladder match. So this game is played on 4 separate lanes, and unlike a different recent game that had lanes in it, you see all the lanes in this game at the same time. So the start of the game is each player placing their 4 champions, alternating back and forth while they do so. So the first player puts one of their guys down, and then I'm gonna put 2 of my guys down, and then they'll put 2, and I'll put 2, and they'll put 1. And each one of these lanes has cards, can have a spell or a unit placed on it. And certain cards in this game have positional things that only affect things that are directly across from them, or like across and kitty corner. And once we draw up some cards here, I'll show you what I mean by that. So my opponent's placing their different champions. What's going on, Matt-Man? Yeah, not a non-Magic game. This is a low point for Magic's hype, so I'm gonna mix in some extra non-Magic games over the course of the next week. We'll probably dip back into a little bit of Underlords too. Their latest patch seems reasonable. Did somebody say Artifact? Yep. So the person who goes first starts with 4 cards in their hand. The person who goes second starts with 5. So we'll draw 5 cards here since we're going second. One of the other things that's interesting in this game is that the starting health total is not set for both players. So you'll notice here that I'm starting with 28 life and my opponent here has started with 35. The thing that dictates your starting health total is what your different cards do. So every one of these champions has a red number on it, and the red number is a modifier of where you start from 30. So my opponent just passed their turn drawing 2 cards here. So my deck that I'm playing is what is referred to as a quick quest deck. So basically what my deck looks to do is it looks to meet all the requirements on its champions as quickly as possible. So the first thing this champion wants to do is play a spell. So I'm going to play my spell over here, and this spell is a very simple effect. It just comes into play, and it domes my opponent for 4 damage. And you can see this card says it deals damage equal to its current corner to my opponent and only has 1 corner on it. So I came in and zapped them down to 4. And then wizards can't play ability cards while they have a spell in front of them. So I can't play my ability here just yet because there's a spell there. So I'm just going to draw a card for the turn. So you get to do 2 things every turn. You can either play 2 cards, play 1 card, draw 1 card, draw 2 cards. So the core mechanics of this game are rotational. So this is card my opponent has 3 corners on it. So when it comes into play, it does its effect on its first corner. So its first corner here says it gains them 1 life. And at the start of every one of your turns, all of your cards rotate to their next corner. So at the start of my opponent's next turn, it'll go to its second corner, which also gains them life. Then on its third corner, this draws cards. So this little icon here means it wants me to play an ability to complete my next quest. So I'm going to go ahead and play, Celestial Fate here, which is a very Ponder-esque ability. So it lets me look at the top 4 cards of my deck, and then I get to grab a spell card out, or I get to grab, sorry, this is one that lets me grab anything, right? Yeah, so I can grab any card I want out of here, and I'm going to grab this Thunderstrike and click OK. And then the other 3 cards that I can either put back in the same order or shuffle my deck. And I'm pretty happy with Trample, Barrier Guard, and Righteous here, so I'm just going to go ahead and put those cards back. This orange icon isn't a special card type, that just means deal damage. So I'm going to go ahead and put this Thunderstrike over here, I think, because it deals damage next turn when it turns. This is Age of Sigmar for its lore. I don't know what the difference between those 2 things are. I'm not really a Warhammer player. I've been playing this game because I enjoy the mechanics of it. So next turn, my opponent's going to get to draw 2 cards with this one. You can see this turns and deals 5 damage, which completes that next quest here. So the next spell card I put on this unit is going to flip up its blessing and give me an effect from that. So some of the controlling elements in this game are positional. So this card, Hurricane Raptor, for instance, it says, in addition to dealing damage, the highlighted champion across from it can't deploy spells, units, or play abilities. So when I put this card on this lane here, it's going to say my opponent can't play anything on this 4th lane. So in addition to dealing 1 and then 2 points of damage, it locks out my opponent on this lane. Barrier Guard here is another card that does a positional effect. So its first corner reduces damage that I take from the lane directly across from it and kitty corner. So the way the control elements and interactive elements work in this game is generally all positional based. I'm going to play my Silent Communion here to complete my next quest. Yes, so when a card would rotate to a corner that's empty, it gets discarded. So for example, this spell here, Thunderstrike, next turn that Thunderstrike is going to go away because its next corner is empty here. So my opponent's card here is going to turn, and this one will gain them a life, this one will draw them cards, and then next turn this one will go away because its corner is going to be empty here. They are just drawing a lot of cards, huh? So someone asked about the blessings and said, are they random? So they're pseudo-random. So when you build a deck, I've picked which 4 blessings are distributed at random underneath my units here in play, but I don't know which of those blessings are under which of these champions. So obviously you can kind of narrow it down as you flip them up and you get closer and closer. So like once you flip up 1, you know what the other 3 are likely to be, etc. Are there cards with 4 corners? If so, how do you get rid of them? When they rotate past their 4th corner, they go away. I think I'm just gonna draw 2 cards here. I could play this Righteousness spell to deal some damage here and complete this quest. But if you see here, this blocks damage from my opponent's units. So I'd rather wait until I'm in a position where they're gonna be dealing damage on these lanes to try and get a little bit of extra value out of this. Nope, none of the units are really directly attacking each other, although some units do have effects that say, like, they remove a unit that's across from them or kitty corner to them. So that's, like, kind of attacking each other. But in general, your units aren't directly attacking one another, no. So they played an ability here that just did 3 damage to me, which completed their damage quest. And now if they have this Mordant unit here, which they do, they're going to complete their first blessing, which will flip up. Supernatural Terror is a pretty strong one. It says here, highlighted units are dormant. You can see it lights up all of my things when it says dormant there. So basically, any units I put into play, which are the red cards here, they don't have any effect as long as this is in play for 3 turns. So I think I'm going to go ahead and play this Flesh to Stone over here to complete this quest. So we'll see my quest complete and it'll flip up. And this one just does some damage, so it does 6 damage to them and it gains me 2. And then this card's super powerful. I mentioned drawing cards is powerful in this game. This card just straight up says you draw a card on each of its corners. So this card effectively draws you 3. So even though this card won't do anything while this dormant thing is in play, it does still count as playing a unit to complete this quest. So I already have enough cards in my hand, so I'm just going to go ahead and play this out to complete that quest. So this card lets them discard a card from their hand and then deploy one of their units from their discard pile onto this champion, and then it rotates it forward. So they're going to get to kind of a reanimator type strategy. What do the quests do again? So as you complete your quests, you flip up blessings. So when you complete the last quest, you get the blessing that's underneath it. And you can see here, my opponent's playing a piece of removal. So this card removes my Flesh to Stone. There is not a max hand size in this game. However, there are particular cards that punish you for having too many cards in your hand. Yes, you can win by running your opponent out of cards. There are some hard control decks that, like, mill people out, basically. So I'm going to go ahead and play my Righteousness here, which will deal 3 damage to my opponent. And then you can see it has these 3 positions across from it lit up. So any damage that's dealt on this lane, or this lane next turn is going to be reduced by 2. So this thing, instead of dealing 3 to me, is only going to deal 1. So this card effectively dealt 3 damage and gained me 2 life for 1 action, which is a pretty good rate. So this unit has Rend, which is normally unpreventable, but my champion ignores Rend. So you're right, it does have Rend, but I get to ignore it. So Battle Tactics is a super powerful card. It says shuffle up to 2 cards from your hand back into your deck, and then draw that many cards plus 1. So I'm going to shuffle 1 of these barrier guards back in. Actually, I'm going to shuffle 2 back in. I'm just looking for spells and abilities at this point, because my units are locked down for a little bit yet, so I'm not going to need those anytime soon. And sweet, we found a spell and we found an ability here. One of the things I've enjoyed about this game is that unlike Magic, where there's like a lot of games like come down to like one player winning in a landslide in one direction or another, I feel like a lot of the games that I play in this are incredibly close on average, which I find enjoyable. At least with the decks that are good. When I'm playing decks that I'm working on deck ideas, sometimes I get run over. But when I'm playing a reasonable deck, generally speaking, the games are incredibly close. All right, so I have to pick one of these cards. I think I'm going to grab the Harpooner because their Supernatural Horror is almost done. And then I think I'm going to shuffle the rest of these. I'm kind of just looking for spells at this point, and none of those are spells. So what decking out does in this game... So, hold on 1 second. So, I could play this Righteousness to complete this damage quest here, but I'm not going to get any value out of it preventing damage at that point, so I'm not sure that that's worthwhile. So, I'm just going to go ahead and play this Flesh to Stone over here and draw some cards. Is there any specific logic to how you position your champions? Yeah, there's a ton of different logic to how you want to position them. So, for example, in this deck, I usually like to alternate my 2 spellcasters with my 2 warrior champions because I have these various cards here that prevent only from 3 lanes. So basically I want to be able to get my max spread for damage prevention on different things. This is another card that's positional based control and interaction this game. So I'm going to put my Razor Shell over here. And this Razor Shell makes the unit across from it dormant, similar to what their thing does, but it only does it on 1 lane. So my Blessing flips up. And this Blessing is a little redundant with this thing I have here. So this makes these 2 lanes dormant, but it also just does 4 damage, which is nice. I think I'm just going to draw a card here. How is X calculated? Is it a resource or value? So that's a good question. So the X on a card isn't a variable. It actually means do nothing. So like if we look at this card, it has a 1, a 1, a 3, and an X. So this card does 1 damage the first turn you play it, 1 damage the second turn when it turns, 3 damage the next time it turns, and then the X means it doesn't do anything, but it still hangs out, basically taking up space. And an X is different than a blank in this game because, for instance, this card, it doesn't do any damage on its first corner, but it still makes their unit dormant on its first corner. The event was a smaller event, and I went, what did I do? I went 3 and 2 overall and finished in the top 4. Yes, you can only have 1 creature or other thing per champion. So I'm going to go ahead and play this Trample Underfoot. I'm just going to try and start killing my opponent, basically, which is a good strategy. So this does 3 damage, and this allows me to discard a card from my hand to pick it back up. So basically, I'm using this, and I get to keep this. This game has a lot of really elegant designs in it, and I feel like it does a fantastic job of using this small board design space to still have a lot of depth to the game overall. Yeah, the deck I'm playing is an aggro deck. All of the decks that quest quickly in this game, and there's various ones for the different factions, are aggressive decks for the most part. So you'll see at the start of my turn, these cards both have blank corners, so they'll disappear. This card also had a blank corner, so that'll disappear. This is another good example of positional interaction and disruption here. So this card's going to deal 2 damage to me next turn, and they want it to deal damage to complete their quest. So I'm going to put my Righteousness here because it's going to deal 3 to them, but more importantly, it's going to shield this lane from dealing damage to me. This champion over here for my opponent is very close to completing its last blessing, so I'm going to play this positional control card here, which in addition to dealing damage, locks my opponent out of playing on this lane. So even though there's not instants in this game, like how a lot of people are used to in Magic, the game's incredibly interactive in this positioning back and forth element that it has. So there's some things that require your opponent to do things on your turn, but in general, you're just playing on each of your own turns. So this is going to turn and do 2. And then this guy is going to deal 3 damage on his next corner, so I can go ahead and put this here, which prevents damage from these 3 lanes from happening. So this card, I've effectively negated all of its damage by blockers. And by that, I mean I flipped up my last blessing and killed them. Do certain champions need more or less quests to complete their blessings? They do not. All the champions have four quests that they go through, but what they're doing for their quests varies from champion to champion. One of the things that this game does really well is the way deck building works in this game. There's so much depth to the amount of deck building things you can do between the way you pick your champion lineup and the way you pick your blessings, and then the actual cards that go into your deck as well, obviously. This game does have a free-to-play option, and it runs on Android and iOS, so if you just search Age of Sigmar Champions, you can pick it up. In fact, because I top 4'd their tournament at Gen Con, I have a bunch of physical product, and once I figure out what I have duplicates of, I think I'm going to put some extra scans up in the subs Discord so people can grab digital copies off of them. So this is made by a small company called PlayFusion. They make this and another game called Lightseekers, which is their own IP. They're actually a small indie company. So someone had mentioned earlier, where's the Deckmaster? One of the things I actually talked to one of their staff about at Gen Con is they're hopefully going to get an output log into this game, so that way we can get some mouse over text when I stream it on occasion. Yeah, so that's another good deck building question. So you can only have cards from one specific Grand Alliance in your deck. However, there's unaligned cards that have other different conditions that you can or can't have depending on what else you're playing. Lightseekers. This is made by the same company as Lightseekers, which I wasn't a huge... I played that game a little bit. It didn't feel like it had nearly as much depth as this one. Yeah, there's some cards that are unaligned cards that can go into any deck of any faction. Yeah, I played a paper event at Gen Con, and I kind of remembered how much I enjoyed this game. So decided to poke back into it. I think I might just draw 2 here. So it's like a balance. So like I could start questing one of these spellcaster champions, but I have to do it with righteousness, which means that I'm basically giving up the prevention on it. But that might be worth it just to like get questing ASAP. Paper, just like Magic, paper is clunkier than digital, but it flows faster than Magic does still because of how the turn orders flow smoothly. Everything, I'd be lying if I said it was as smooth as digital, because I don't think anything's as smooth as digital in paper, but it feels good and flows well. Hey, Kid Yamo, thank you for these 7 months of support. I appreciate that. Welcome back. All right, so this guy is going to deal 2 damage on his next corner, and they have a damage quest here. So what I want to do here is I want to play this barrier guard on this lane, because this barrier guard has positional damage prevention. So it's going to prevent damage from here, here, and here. So this guy won't complete the second quest for him, which is nice. I'm going to play Silent Communion here, which lets me reveal the top 4 cards of my deck and take 1 spell and one unit from among them. So hopefully there's a spell and a unit in my top 4. There is a spell and a unit. All right, I get to choose on the unit. Do I want a Razor Shell or a Reaver? I think I'm going to take the Razor Shell, just because being a little disruptive feels good. I think digital Magic is way smoother than paper. Just cutting the shuffling out alone makes digital Magic way smoother than paper. So the resource system in this game is each player gets to do 2 things per turn, and you don't automatically draw a card. So when you want to just draw cards, that's one of the things you have to do for your turn. So you'll see this guy will turn to his second corner, and cards can do different things on their different corners. So while the first corner on this does damage prevention, the second corner deals 2. I don't really have anything I want to do here. I guess I can just battle tactics over here, but I kind of like all the cards in my hand. But completing the quest is valuable. So this card lets me shuffle other cards from my hand back into my deck if I want to, but I kind of like everything that's in my hand. So I think I'm going to decline to shuffle any of these back in and just draw 1. Yeah, that's a good thing. The skull's in the middle, so I have one action remaining. And rather than playing a card that doesn't really advance my quests too much, I guess I could put Righteousness here. Yeah, I'm a liar. Let's put this here. It doesn't prevent any damage, but it completes my quest and means I can play this to finish this off next turn as a spell. Because in this game, drawing a card is an action that you have to take, one of the things that I found that's really nice about this game, that's good from a learning perspective, is that the current health total for the players tends to be indicative of how far ahead or behind you are. So unlike Magic, where your health total is a big resource, in Warhammer, it's closer to being a scoreboard than you'll find in Magic. So they just played a card that's similar, that's the same one that I've had. So they're going to prevent damage from here, here, and here this turn. So while I could complete both of these quests, all 4 of the blessings in this deck deal damage to my opponent. So I don't really want to flip up a quest that does damage while they're preventing 3 on these lanes. So I'm actually just going to pass my turn here, I think, and draw 2. I could also just play this here to get this going, because this is pretty likely to draw me another spell. And maybe I'll do that, because this will draw me a card this turn, and then it'll draw me another card next turn. And then I can draw a card for the turn. So the way Warhammer works is if I play this here, this isn't in the lane, making it dormant until after the blessing flips up. So I could play this here, but then they'll prevent damage from this blessing still. Yep. And that's actually one of the things that takes some getting used to in this game, coming from Magic, is that if mid-resolution of a card, something else happens to trigger something else, that other trigger happens mid-resolution. So they had an effect here. So this champion has an ability that says, when this champion deploys a spell, they discard a card to draw a card. And this unit here says when they discard it, they gain 2 life. So they're kind of a discard combo deck, or a discard synergy deck. And look at that, we drew another spell. So I'm just gonna dome you here. What does this do? They discard a unit from their hand to move 1 of that unit type from their deck, and 1 from their discard pile back to their hand. So I'm going to play this here, which finishes up this last quest and triggers my blessing. Just deal 7. And then I guess I just do this here. This will do 4 total. So that puts them down to 16. This puts them down to 12. So as I mentioned earlier, the health total is kind of indicative of who's ahead and who's behind in this game. But another resource to pay attention to is my opponent has 7 cards in their hand. So they have a lot of extra resources in their hand to play out still. So if I need to draw cards in order to win this game, they're probably a little bit ahead in that metric. Is this a sponsored stream? It is not. So anyone who lives in the United States, or basically any other developed country, you are legally required to disclose if you are being sponsored to play something on your stream. So that's why you'll see players that put hashtag sponsored in their stream. That's because they're receiving something for doing that. I'm just playing this game because I enjoy it and decided to wrap the stream up with it for a little bit today. Play a few games. Ooh, that's a really good one. So this card reduces damage from all of my lanes. So my blessing didn't deal any damage, and this didn't deal any damage. So it reduces it by 2 the first turn and by 1 the second turn. And because everything else in my hand kind of just does damage, I kind of just have to wait for this to rotate off to really do anything meaningful. So I'm just going to pass my turn and draw 2 cards here. So they've gained a bunch of life back with this card that lets them keep gaining 2 life when they discard it, because this card lets them shuffle it back and forth. They discard it and they pick it back up. So this turn, this is preventing 1 damage from all of my stuff because it's on its second corner. So this is dealing 2, so it'll get 1 damage through. And you can see now our hand sizes are close and our health totals are close here. Like I said, a lot of the games in this game, a lot of the games in this game feel pretty close overall. And now we're at almost the exact same points. So this here is going to deal 2 damage when it turns to its next corner here, and they're on a damage quest. So it's appealing to me to play Righteousness on this lane, because this way it'll prevent the 2 damage this is about to deal, which will deny them the ability to advance this quest. So while you only get to take 2 game actions, per turn, a lot of the time it's really appealing. You want to get ahead by taking game actions that like forward your game plan while also disrupting theirs. So tactical formation's an ability here that actually lets me change the position of 2 of my champions that are deployed. So some of these cards that care about positioning, you're able to kind of maneuver around them by using cards like tactical formation. Yeah, this game had an electronic release very shortly after they released the paper game at Gen Con last year. Increased damage from abilities by turn. Gross. So this is going to deal 5. Oh, shit. We're about to die. So this blessing is super strong. We actually play that one too. It does bonus damage if we're disengaged. Yikes. Alright, so I'm going to play this here, which is going to prevent damage from them next turn. I think we're dead here. The fact that their blessing flipped up and did 9 there probably means I'm dead. And I also can't like play my spell here because this guy locks me out of playing things on this lane. So I can't like spell this turn, spell next turn to complete this blessing and maybe win that way. So I guess we'll trample underfoot here. I think we're actually just dead, right? Yeah, I'm actually just gonna concede. We're dead because while this prevents damage this turn, they're gonna be able to get that card back again and again and again. So the blessings, because you have to work to kind of rotate through your champions to get to them, their effects tend to be more powerful than cards you can just put into your deck. You have to work to trigger them. You don't necessarily know which one you're triggering. Yeah, there are cards that straight up just remove the card across from you. So there's interaction that does that, but this deck that I'm playing isn't playing any of those cards. Hey, PCV, thanks for the 9 months. I appreciate that. Welcome back. Thanks for keeping me around. We're going to play one more of these before I call it a day. Maybe 2 more. I guess I have 2 more placement matches. Maybe we'll finish my placement matches for the season. What do you think? What do you think my border should be? Or playing an order deck? Is it white? I feel like mono white should probably be my border color while we play order. Yeah, they made some good small changes, Bolas, for sure. So I think I want to put this here. Man, something I just did not make the frame rate on my camera happy. That's weird. So when I'm placing champion in this deck, generally speaking, I like to alternate them back and forth. One warrior, one mage, one warrior, one mage, because of the way the positional blocking damage cards work. And I have a couple of those cards tactical formation, so like my final positioning on my champions isn't necessarily final if I find those. So we're on the draw, so we'll start with 5. So this start's actually incredibly awkward. I don't have any abilities in my hand, and I have all spells. So thankfully, this is one of our better spells that we can start on because it draws us a bunch of cards. So hopefully this Flesh to Stone is going to draw us into some abilities here. Yeah, Flesh to Stone is kind of an anti-destruction card. It says, in addition to drawing cards, they also tacked on your opponent can't take additional actions, which is kind of nice. All right, so this is an ability like I was kind of looking for, but you'll notice it has a red border around it. So this is an ability that can only be played by my warrior champions. I don't have any units to get them started just yet. I'm just going to go ahead and play... I could play Light as Sigmar, but if I don't draw an ability next turn, I'm not going to be able to complete this quest. I'm just going to draw a card for the turn. Hey, sweet. There's a Celestial Fate. So this is an ability that can only be used by a wizard. So we'll be able to play a spell on this next turn, and then the following turn, Celestial Fate will let us quest her to the second one. So this card deals 2 damage to me and 1 damage to my opponent. Oh, that's unfortunate. We might just get aggroed down here. This card is a little bit punishing for playing wizards. If I don't have any units, it increases the damage by 3. And since I only played a spell, I took extra damage from it. So I'm going to play the Righteousness here, which then shields all 3 of these lanes by 2 damage. So that deals 3, and then this isn't going to deal any damage to us. And then I think I'm just drawing a card here. Now, I guess I can play... I could play this here. I think I just want to draw. I can play Argent Saga. I actually have one of their demo decks sitting here on my table. The gameplay seemed okay. The fact that it didn't have a digital mechanic, though, seemed kind of... The fact that it doesn't have a digital game kind of reduced my appeal in it. So I'd like to not take the last 2 from this here. So I have to decide how exactly I want to quest here. I could either put this Barrier Guard here to prevent the 2, or I could go Celestial Fate here plus Righteousness. I think I want to do this. And then the question becomes, do I want to get this back to my hand? I don't think that I do, because I don't really have any units to quest over here. So I don't think I'm going to be questing my other... warrior this game. Probably just going to be trying to complete these wizards and this warrior here. Yeah, having a unit out is also appealing because of their card that deals extra damage if I don't have a unit. So this blessing that flipped up here doesn't do anything just yet, but once they have 15 or less life, it deals... Oh, that's a little punishing. It makes them deal extra damage on this lane. So basically, I want to try and close them from like 15 to 0 in like 1 turn ideally, or like 16 to 0. So let's play the Celestial Fate here. I think I definitely want a Barrier Guard. I'm gonna shuffle the rest of these. I don't really think I'm looking for any of those. Yeah, this game has a lot of depth to it, similar to Magic. The gameplay mechanics are just genuinely very different, though. It's complex in very different ways. Yeah, this game isn't like Hearthstone or Eternal or like Hex was, in that it's not just Magic Light or Magic Plus. It's just a different style of game. All right, so now one of the things that's kind of interesting is I almost don't want to complete this quest because all of my quests involve dealing an incredible amount of damage to my opponent. So I don't really want to deal a bunch of damage and drop them below 15 where this can kill me. So I think I want to go ahead and play the Celestial Fate here. Yeah, the opponent's deck is basically the equivalent of mono red. It's a great way to put it. I'm gonna grab the Barrier Guard because it can prevent some damage. Oh, huh. Maybe I was supposed to... Maybe I was supposed to take the Flesh to Stone there. Yeah, I think I messed up. I should have taken the Flesh to Stone. So if I would have taken the Flesh to Stone, I would have been able... If I would have taken the Flesh to Stone, I would have been able to complete this quest here and here next turn, because this does the damage, and then I'd have a spell, and maybe I would have been able to kill them. That's gonna kill me. Yep, my draw was a little bit slow this game. We got mono-ridded. So, while their health total wasn't quite at 15 yet, when I passed the turn, their ability there dealt damage to themselves and then put them to 15 to then give them enough to kill me there. Hey, and if we play one more, not only will we complete my placement quest, we'll complete my daily mission. Look at that. Alright, I'm sorry. Try one more, so we finish 3-2 in placement matches. I also don't know if the deck that I'm playing is even that good. It just like plays a bunch of the cards that I liked playing. This is like what I played at the event over the past weekend at Gen Con. This game has a new set coming out in 2 weeks or so. It'll be their 4th set, so things will change when that happens anyways. Is the wizard, you're using the heroic action to sack a spell to deal damage? Yeah, it's sack the spell, deal 2. Loot. All right, let's do it. Yeah, they've got a bunch of spoilers up for the next set. There's a bunch of Order Elves. I'm excited to try and flesh that out. Flesh that one out a little bit. I don't remember if this is the same person we just played against. At any rate, we're probably about to get a rematch. Yeah, they have a official spoiler on their own website. Bolas. Look, it's Savagery, or Savagery was the last set. Whatever, Unleashed. Unleashed is the new one. Unleashed overview. I didn't catch the name of the last person, but even if this was a different person, it's the same deck it looks like. See if we're a bit unlucky last time or if we just have a bad matchup here. It's probably the same opponent. I think it was the same avatar too. I don't pay that close of attention. Flesh to Stone's a good start. Sweet. Flesh to Stone on 1 is great. We have a Razor Shell to lock out any units that get put here. Last time we lost the die roll and they had Opportunity Strike on 1 too, so it feels bad that happened twice. Someone asked about balance on this game. One of the things I'm not sure if I agree, it feels like wizards are a little bit weak in this game overall. Because like there's cards like this. Some of the spells have really strong effects, but there's a lot of cards like Opportunity Strike that are pretty punishing for not playing units. So I can deploy this here to lock this unit down for a few turns, which is nice. Slow down their aggression. Yeah, my hand's much better this game. Last game I just had a bunch of spells and couldn't really do much because I had to fumble for abilities. I have a pretty good mix here. This unit just quests, this champion just quests so quickly. So now, something that's a little bit of the strategy in my deck is this champion's second quest is an ability, and its third is damage. So if I play an ability on this lane this turn and complete this quest, next turn when this unit turns to deal damage automatically, it'll complete the third quest. So that effectively lets this single card complete the first and third quests on here, which again is one of those ways you kind of get ahead in this game by getting your single cards to complete multiple things for you. I'm gonna go ahead and play Communion here, so we'll flip up our top 4 cards of our deck. Hopefully there's a unit and a spell among them. We get to draw one of each of those. Sometimes you miss on one of them and it sucks, but sweet, we got both. Barrier Guard's a good one too. And Righteousness is great. And then I'm actually going to go ahead. You said champion to victory life total. Can you go over that again? Yeah, so each of the champions have... I'm going to take my turn here really quick and I'll show you a champion. So I'm going to play this Righteousness here, which completes my quest and prevents damage from here, denying them their quest. So again, kind of a 2 types of actions for one thing. So every champion has a red number and a green number. The red number, yeah, there's some kind of frame rate drop with my camera. I think it's something funky with this running through Wine on Steam. So the red number is the health modifier. So each of my wizard champions give me -1 starting health, and the green number is the point total that they cost. And one of the deck building restrictions that you have is you can only have so many total points worth of stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and play Celestial Fate here. Go digging for... I'm looking for some spells here to complete this guy up. Perfect. Light of Sigmar sounds great. And then I'm kind of just looking for more spells for this wizard over here. So I'm going to shuffle these cards rather than keep them. So I'm going to go ahead and play my Light of Sigmar here, which completes the damage quest because it deals 4 when it comes into play. And then next turn, I'm actually going to be set up to complete quests on this champion and this champion, because I have the special elf unit to complete here, and I have another spell to complete here. Yeah, the frame rate's messed up. I'm not quite sure why, but this is going to be my last game, so I'm not taking the time to fix it at the moment. So they're at 23. So I guess the question I have to ask myself is, do I want to flip this one up? So one of my quests does extra damage if there's nothing across from them. So I'm going to play this here. So we do 7... We're going to do 7 plus 3. And then I have to ask myself, I already have 2 damage prevention here. Do I want to deploy this and kind of waste extra damage prevention? They're at 13. It's probably just right to play this over here, because it locks them out of playing cards on this lane, which means they can't play an ability and complete this quest here. So it does a little bit of damage, it completes my first quest, and it locks them out of doing this, which is nice. So, one of the abilities the opponent's deck plays is a card that rotates this a turn sooner. So even though this isn't going to be dealing 3 to me next turn, I think I still want to deploy my barrier guard here, so that way they don't, like, do an incredible amount of damage to me here. They also kind of want to play abilities on this lane too to complete this quest, and a lot of their abilities just straight up deal damage. Although, unfortunately, this is the downside here. This is an ability that's the ability that deals more damage in the event that there's no unit across from me there, and there was a unit across from me there. That being said, they're at 8 here, and this is going to deal 2. So I could just play this trample underfoot here, discard this and pick it back up, and potentially kill them next turn. Now, the downside to that is if they gain any life, it's not good. So I think I'm just going to battle tactics here. Because if I'm fortunate and I battle tactics into an elf unit, I get to complete this quest over here next turn, which I was not. Maybe I'm just supposed to gamble there and hope they don't have anything to gain life with. Oh, I guess this also deals 1 to them. This does 3s to me on its first and last corner, but then it also does... I'm at 17, but they're pretty close to completing these blessings here and here. So there's a pretty good chance they flip up and do a bunch of damage to me next turn. Yeah, because, like, in addition to being close to completing these quests, like, these are each going to deal 3 to me. So I'm 1 point of damage short here. So if I would have done this, I could have killed them. I do have 1 redraw, though. I have spells in my deck that deal 4, so if I draw one of those with tactical formation, I can win the game. Just a Flesh to Stone. Yeah, I think I just have to play this and hope not to die. I think there's a good chance we die this turn. Because of this quest completing. If we don't die this turn, this elf draw means I complete this quest down here, which almost certainly means they die. But they only have to deal 10 to me, and with flipping these quests up, there's probably a good chance that happens. Yep, dead. Is this game pay to win? I would say no card games are pay to win. And I think if you think card games are pay to win, card games are probably not for you. Card games are what I would refer to as pay to compete. You have to have cards in order to play, and certain cards are better than other cards, but no, you don't just win more by spending more money on this game, just like you don't win more by spending more money on Hearthstone or Magic. So, at any rate, that's Warhammer Age of Sigmar Champions, game I play on my mobile, off and on at the gym, and I played a little bit at Gen Con. I might do a couple other streams of it here and there as time permits while we're waiting for the next Magic rotation to happen. Thanks everyone for watching. Remember, if you missed any of this, it'll all go up on my YouTube channel later, along with all of my other magical stuff. Everybody have a good one. What game is pay to win? I don't know. The way people describe pay to win, like, is hockey play to win because you have to buy protective gear, because, like, you're pretty screwed at hockey if you don't have protective gear, right? Is golf pay to win because you have to buy golf clubs and you're gonna suck if you don't have good golf clubs? I'm sure there's some game out there where you can dump endless money for endless bonuses, but card games aren't those. All right, have a good one, folks.